not theirs.
Mr Speaker, goodness me. 9 years in government, 18 months in opposition, and that's all the Socialist Labor Party has to show. That's the best that that party can do. 9 years in government, 18 months, I almost said 18 years, Mr Speaker, but let's not get ahead of ourselves too far. 18 months in opposition, and that's the best that they can offer. There's been a little bit of talk in this debate, Mr Speaker, as to whether this government inherited a mess or not. I would have thought that was a non-debatable point. Obviously the government inherited a mess, a big mess. But you know, Mr Speaker, a mess can be fixed with discipline and application and good policies. A mess can be fixed. What can never, ever be recovered from, though, Mr Speaker, is the 9 years of lost opportunity. New Zealand never gets those years back. The people of New Zealand never ever recover the lost opportunities that they experienced as a result of 9 years of that government. That simple, telling figure. Real after-tax wages grew by only 3% over the 9 years of that government. Only 3%. And what is worse, Mr Speaker, the bulk of that growth occurred in the early years of that Labor government on the back of disciplined economic policies from the 1990s. And rather than squawking across the floor at me, Mr Speaker, I suggest that members like Mr Cunliffe, Miss Street and the others over there get out into the streets of the working class parts of my electorate of Tamaki and tell the people that in the past used to vote for Labor. I look forward to Miss Beaumont actually being out there and doing that and explaining to those good people why over 9 years the real growth in their incomes, their wages, was a miserable 3%, Mr Tremaine, a miserable 3%. And there will be more explaining for that party and those members to do as well. They can begin to explain why not only did the real salaries of those good people not grow under that government, but also why that government required these people to pay so much more in tax, so much more than needed to be paid. Why did that Labor government, year after year after year, take so much money in the form of taxation from the good working class people of New Zealand? Get out into the streets of places like Glen Innes and similar areas around New Zealand and explain that. Explain to the people, how can it be that in 18 months of a national government, somebody on the average wage can have their income tax effectively cut by a half? How can it be that through good government, the income tax of a person on the average wage can be cut in half? And then go a step further, Miss Beaumont, go a step further and explain to those people why the Labor government had to take so much of their own money from them and then apologise. Apologise for the way that it was squandered. And while the Labor Party is at it, Mr Speaker, they might also like to explain to the parents of communities like this why their investment in the schools in those communities was so poor. Explain that. Why was it, despite the fact that New Zealanders were being taxed to a greater extent than ever in the past, their schools were allowed to run down? And how can it then be that in just 18 months this government can produce a budget which allows for $12 billion of spending in education in 18 short months? $12 billion more money than has ever been spent on schooling and education in New Zealand than has ever occurred in the past.